Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thank you so much for dropping by. Can expats work in the Philippines? Well, you know what? It is complicated, but I think we want to share something that's happening here. So, let's talk about it.
Why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
Okay, what brought this about? Well, recently I've seen several videos put out by several vloggers who I really feel do a very poor misrepresentation of the actual facts behind working in the Philippines for expats, for tourists. All right, that also. And I think it's also important to keep in mind that, this is one of those things that, number one, it's important, but number two, it's one of the most trolled things that are out there, other than catching some YouTuber lying through his ass or just spouting bullshit. This issue gets trolled often. So I thought we would do all of this. Now, what are we going to go through? Well, here's the deal. We're going to cover working when on a tourist visa. Yes, we are going to cover that. What's a work permit versus an AEP, an alien employment permit? Working when you're on an SRRV, working when you're a 13A, and what's the PRC, and you need to stay in your lane. So, before I can get that started, a couple of disclaimers. Number one, I'm not a lawyer, but I have paid out the ass to lawyers over the years. Incredible amounts of money. Number two, I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. So I've got a little bit of experience with this. And I think you need some background to understand where we're coming from. Okay, now, when I first met Arlen and started dating Arlen, my wife, all right, I would do like when I felt it became serious, I would do like a month in the U.S. A month in the Philippines and 3 months in the U.S. Back and forth, back and forth. Well, that only lasted twice because, quite frankly, it was just such a waste of time and effort. Number two, I was still working and I had a minor child. So I had obligations, but I needed to continue to run and work. So when I say run and work, what do I mean? Well, I owned my companies. All right. The two companies that I owned, that I had then, I owned them. I was a stockholder. I did take a check. I was employed. All right. And I did have partners, which kind of plays in the role here too. So what did I do? Well, all right. In my business, I had two law firms. One was a monster, all right, based out of Chicago, one of the largest healthcare law firms in the United States. Number two was probably one of the most prestigious corporate law firms in Phoenix. I had two for two reasons. Number one, my healthcare law firm, let me tell you, they were expensive. I'm talking about paralegals were doing $300 an hour. Seasoned partners that were representing me were at $500 to $900 an hour. It was incredible. So, but those of you that have dealt with law firms, you'll understand this. Big mega law firms end up subspecializing in multiple areas. And my law firm, my healthcare law firm, had an international division. They did business law, healthcare law, but they had an international division as well. And so I said to them, look, you know what? I am spending a lot of time in the Philippines and I'm working. I'm working when I'm there. And keep this in mind. This is also important. Last month, there will be almost, last month, there were 80,000 some odd tourists from the U.S. that came to the Philippines. You think of those 80,000, some of them weren't working. They weren't doing email. They weren't calling the office. They weren't keeping up with what's going on. They're working. All right. Even on vacation, they're working. Could be just like you. You could be looking to explore the Philippines and you've got to keep up with things at the office. Could be, you're doing your recon to see where you want to be, but you're still working. You're planning, all of those types of things. Well, I found myself in that situation. So this international division then got together with their attorney's side, all right, put me in touch with their side. And quite frankly, the answers I got then do not match the answers that I'm getting or seeing from some of these vloggers. So I thought to myself, has shit changed that much? Well, let me take a look at some stuff. Let me take a look. I mean, because what I'm hearing come out of some of these people's mouths is really not accurate in any way, shape, or means. So that tells you what happened. That tells you why. So where are we going to go now? Let's talk about working on a tourist visa, okay? Because most of you, many of you will either A, come over on a tourist visa initially, then qualify to apply for an SRRV, or you may then get married, or you may already be married, but you've got to go through the process of getting that 13A. But we're talking about the tourist visa. How does that work? Well, okay, something that you need to understand. Can you do online teaching? And, the first definition here is very simple. You're on a tourist visa. So you can't do anything that's generating revenue, all right, being employed by a Philippine company or corporation. Just can't. But what about teaching English online? Well, these companies are going to tell you you can do this, and you can. It's a gray line. It's never been, as of the 13 years ago, when I researched all of this, there's never been a precedent. And I'll give you an example. All right. The big trolling sometimes happens is how is this guy running a YouTube channel while he's on a tourist visa? Because it's never been attacked. The government's never done it. All right. For those of you that are exploring, you certainly should have by now found the case of Vitali. Vitali was the guy with an American green card. He actually was a Russian citizen with an American green card living in the United States, raised in the United States. He is a nuisance, or was a nuisance streamer. Right now, he's a detainee. All right. So when they first went after Vitali, they arrested him. They filed charges. In his initial charges, the only thing that came close, that even resembled working, was the fact that he was filming in BGC without a production or film permit. All right. So he was producing commercially available, making money. Stuff was monetized, commercially available films. Even, you got to consider whether you consider streaming and filming YouTube films or not. That's the way. All right. That was one of the charges. Later, that got dropped. He's never been charged, and they've never spoke about charging him for working in the Philippines on a tourist visa. And the other thing you need to also recognize is, for those of you that don't understand, that the letter of the law is extremely defined, even in the Philippines. Sometimes it's ambiguous, but sometimes it's clearly defined. There's a difference, a big difference between being employed and working for a company. So, can you do YouTube? It's a gray area. It's never been gone after. Many YouTubers have been arrested, detained, deported, brought into court over many issues, but not for being a YouTuber. That is yet to happen. Would it happen? Could it happen? It's possible. It's possible. Many people have been detained, arrested over the years for various reasons, that did English as a second language, math as they're teaching math online, they're teaching whatever, and they're not teaching Filipinos. All right? It's never been brought up in case law as of like 12 years ago. I still don't think it has, or we would see people that would shy away from it. There are too many people that say this is the thing to do. So can you work on a tourist visa? Certainly you can. I mean, the Philippines can't expect you to come here, vacation. They give you these huge, long 30-day visas to start off with, and you can get up to 60 right there at the airport. You can extend up to 60, all right? And you can stay here and keep renewing that thing for up to 3 years, and then say, I'm not working. I don't contact my office. I don't stay in contact with email. I mean, I was doing board meetings from our little apartment that Arlen and I had in Makati. All right. I was doing management meetings. I was answering email, fielding phone calls, the whole 9 yards. I was working. So can you work on a tourist visa within limitations? Yes, you can. So let's now move to the second part. What about the SRRV? Because it is an option for me. I could have gotten an SRRV. And so I was talking to them, and these things still hold true. They're the exact same as what they were. Yes, a expat with a SRRV. I mean, this is from Deep AI, but you can get it. This corresponds and is identical to the information I got from my attorneys 13 years ago. Yes, an expat with an SRRV can work in the Philippines, but they must secure an AEP. All right, and we're going to talk about AEPs, all right, when we get through this. So, yes, you can. You can. But there are some limitations to these things. In other words, if you're going to work, say for instance, you're an engineer and you're going to be, you were an engineer, or you were a chemist, or you were a nurse, or you were this, or you were that. Well, yeah, okay. Sure, of course. But then you run into this. The Philippine Professional Regulation Commission covers a wide array of fields, including professionals across various things like healthcare, engineering, accounting, education, architecture, law, real estate. You've got to be licensed by them to practice that type of a professional situation. And there are other limitations. But you see my point. My point with this is, yes, you can. Yes, it's there. Now, are you as a foreigner going to pass that board? I doubt it. I doubt you can even take it. All right. I never looked into it. I could have. I never looked into it because it didn't interest me. I knew that I was going to be exiting my firm. I knew that I was going to be exiting my practice. I knew that I was going to be selling my stock, and I knew I wasn't going to work. I was done with working at some point in time. All right. Now, how about the 13A? So that's something else. Here we roll into a different situation. We roll into a situation that says I'm married to a Filipina. So yes, an expat with a 13A visa, also known as the spousal visa, can work in the Philippines without needing a work permit. All right? 13 is a permanent resident visa. Now, that's the best way to go. However, if your spouse and you disagree, okay, if you and your spouse have an argument, she needs just to inform them that she is no longer sponsoring you, even if you have gotten that permanent. So in other words, when I got my 13A, the first year is temporary. The second year it becomes permanent. But if I piss Arlen off, she can revoke it. But again, a lot of misinformation. She can revoke it, but it doesn't get revoked immediately. It does give you time to adjust your visa status. All right? So we've covered all of these things. Look, you can work in the Philippines. The best and easiest and most liberal way you can work is as a 13A. I don't need a worker's permit, all right? A quote unquote worker's permit. I don't need an AEP. If you're on an SRRV, you have to get an AEP. Now, companies will sponsor that and they'll get it for you. Getting an AEP is not difficult at all. I actually looked into it, okay? We know multiple American, actually multiple Australian bar managers, okay, that are on AEPs, that have AEPs because they are SRRVs, all right? They have SRRVs, they have an AEP, and they work for these bars around here in Angeles City. We know several of them. Okay, so it's not unheard of by any way, shape, or means. My suggestion, okay, my biggest suggestion is, the information I got 13 years ago, very, very similar to what you can look up yourself. The second thing is if you talk to some of these companies and you want to work for them online and you ask them, is it legal for me to work in the Philippines? Guess what? They're going to tell you yes. Of course they're going to tell you yes. Of course they're going to say, our lawyers say it is. Well, hell yeah, they're going to say that. Get a lawyer here. All right? All I can do is tell you, I'm not a lawyer, but it is a gray area on a tourist visa. The tourist visa really restricts you. It certainly does. Is it enforced? I have yet to see it enforced, to be honest with you. And there may be, these off-the-wall regulations that allow for certain things to happen. But who knows? All right? Until you get an attorney, you're not going to know. And certainly you're not going to find out from us 100%. And we apologize for that. But, the one thing, we have smart subscribers. I can't just put out a video full of bullshit without taking a ration of crap in the comments. All right? We have smart subscribers that and the exchange of information in our videos, in our comment sections, in our live streams, it's good. It's really good. They have a lot of experience. Some of them are highly educated. Some of them are incredibly street smart. They have tons of experience being around. So we can't tell you the definitive, even if we knew what the definitive answer was in every case, We couldn't tell you because we're not lawyers. All right? And you know something? Your lawyer probably can't tell you either until it goes before a judge. And it's the judge that makes the decision. And lawyers argue the law, judges interpret it. That's the bottom line. All right? Lawyers argue their impression or interpretation of the law. The judges pass the final verdict on it, unless you go to a trial or something like that. So, are you working on a tourist visa? Are you doing online work as a tourist visa? When you come here, all right, when you visit the Philippines, are you staying in touch with your business or your office? Are you working? In the comments below, let us know what your thoughts and experiences are with that. Otherwise, please do like, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe, or thumbs down, who knows, all right, and subscribe. And then finally, have a great, safe day.